At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality walking shoes, which might lead to another discovery.
40,000 steps, baby. Who's on top now, Karen?
You've taken the office step challenge a step too far. Don't worry, though. Sierra also has yoga gear. It might be a good place to find your zen. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
When did making plans get this complicated? It's time to streamline with WhatsApp, the secure messaging app that brings the whole group together. Use polls to settle dinner plans. Send event invites and pin messages so no one forgets Mom's 60th. And never miss a meme or milestone. All protected with end-to-end encryption. It's time for WhatsApp. Message privately with everyone. Learn more at whatsapp.com.
From NJ.com and the Heldridge Hotel, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights. With your host, Steve Politi, and Rutgers insider Brian Fonseca. Let's start shopping.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Rutgers Rant. Fresh off the bye week. You look refreshed. No?
I feel like the season's starting all over. New beginnings.
Oh, wow. Look at that. You're 0-0. You're looking to go 1-0 this week. All right. We're going to break down the Washington game. We're going to make our predictions for that game. Then we're going to talk to CEO, entrepreneur, radio personality, overall cool dude, king of Piscataway, New Jersey, native of Woodbridge, in our list, Avenel section of Woodbridge. Eric LeGrand's coming on to make picks with us. Of course he is. You knew when we have guests, we'd break that glass and get Eric LeGrand on here. He's got some bourbon to talk about. Look forward to interviewing Eric and shooting the breeze with him. But all right, but before we do that, if you're like me, I know you were because we were texting about it. You were sitting there watching college football this weekend, and there was one game you were just completely obsessed with. At least I was. I was pretty much couldn't go any place until that was over. Penn State, UCLA. That's not what I was expecting to see. Not what I expected to be doing with my Saturday afternoon. And Brian, the relevance here for the Rutgers Rant, of course, is the question I asked on social media, sort of a heated debate. You asked the same thing. Should Rutgers fans be happy with that? I mean, is that a result that, warms the cockles of your heart if you're a Rutgers fan? Or are you just pounding your head against the table at the idea that 0-4 UCLA with an interim coach would beat your nemesis and the season when they're ranked in the top 10? Oh, my goodness. What do you think?
It is, to me, I could see both sides, right? I think from a pure Rutgers perspective, fans could correct me here. I think there's no team in the country that Rutgers fans hate watching more than Penn State, where you get a thrill out of seeing them lose. I feel the same way on my personal sports fandom with Benfica. If they lose in chess, I get happy, right? So I can understand Rutgers fans who say it doesn't matter who beats them. If Penn State loses a game, I'm happy. That being said, it probably does hurt a little bit that it wasn't Rutgers that pulled that off because they're going to have the opportunity to do that later in the season. And now when they do host Penn State, maybe they even have a chance to upset them, but it's not going to have the effect of knocking them out of the playoff because after losing to UCLA, who looked Chris Ashe-esque at points this season, they're not going to make the playoff. Right? I know Notre Dame made it last year after losing to Northern Illinois. They're not going to make the playoff. So I think that it takes some vigor out of the argument that Rutgers, when they play with the big boys, they're not in position as a program to compete. It's natural to lose these games by a billion, which I understood to an extent. But then you watch UCLA, which couldn't walk 3 steps forward straight without tumbling over the past 4 weeks, put up a masterclass. I mean, they the first half, they dominated Penn State. And then in the second to last drive, they have a third down, 3rd and 1. The guy throws a pass out of the flat and he's wide open, somehow trips over his own feet, falls short. They get stopped and they still win the game. It was a miracle they won that game. But yeah, if I'm a Rutgers fan who suffered through so many losses to teams like Penn State over the years, and then I see that happen, it's like, why can't we do that one time?
Yeah, I think that's it. That to me was the bigger takeaway. Absolutely. Of course, if you're a Rutgers fan, you're laughing your ass off because this was supposed to be their year, favored to finally not to beat Ohio State, get to the playoff, win the playoff. They're just loaded. You would think that this would be, to see them lose to a team like that is objectively hilarious. If you're a Rutgers fan, I get it. But the other part of this is, Rutgers has now had, 40 chances to win a game like that. Not just Penn State, but to win a game like that, to beat a team like that where you're not good, you're going nowhere, and a win like that just completely, changes the narrative of the season. It gives you a forever memory. It makes all of the pain and suffering worth it. And Rutgers has not had that win. So if I'm a Rutgers fan, I'm just like, when's our turn? You see Vanderbilt beat Alabama. I get it. They're good this year. But you see all these results throughout the course of the last few years where you're just like, when's us? When do we get our bite of the apple? And I looked at the numbers, Rutgers has lost 32 of the last 33 games to Penn State. 1918, that team beat the Nittany Lions. I don't know if they were called the Nittany Lions in 1918 or if they were called Penn State in 1918, but they won that game, and they haven't scored 10 points, more than 10 points against them in the 10 games since joining the Big Ten. I mean, yeah, it's been pretty lopsided.
Yeah, and then even in games where you're kind of in there, right? Like you have a moment where Gio Roscigno, our former guest of the Rutgers Rant, not to call him out, but they run this Philly special, and he has a touchdown in his hands that, it's not going to beat Penn State, but it puts you in a competitive place, right? The only reason UCLA won that game was because they were up 27-7, right? You've got to essentially create such a huge cushion. And, you have had opportunities in the past, and you just don't take advantage of it. To your point, right? Like, it's one thing, I totally understand losing these games to Ohio State, to Penn State, to Michigan when they're juggernauts, which Penn State this year is a juggernaut, to be clear. But to your point, like, there were opportunities, not to beat a dead horse, Illinois last year, or other games where you're playing the number 17 team in the country, and that doesn't save a season, right? UCLA is still going down the what, but it does alleviate some of the just misery they're having in LA for the past 3 years, right? And I think Rutgers has an opportunity this year in a different way, right, to turn what has been a really rough start to the Big Ten play, and turn things around with a win against. You're going to have Oregon, you're going to have Penn State coming to town, you're going to have Ohio State, which looks like I don't think the best NFL team, the worst NFL team, would have a breeze beating Ohio State the way they're playing. They're just running over teams. But against Oregon and Penn State, you never know. The chance is there, but you got to do it eventually.
Yeah. And I think that's at least the other takeaway from this is that, Penn State's not unbeatable. I don't think, you get in your head that, well, they can't just cross them off. You can't beat them. Like, I guess that's what I come back to. A lot of the times we get the schedule when the year starts, we put X's on 4 games with Rutgers. Like, that's not the case in college football. It shouldn't be the case. It's not. Penn State's beatable, and I don't think it'll matter to the average Rutgers fan if they're sitting there at the end of the year at 7-4 or what. No one's going to care if you're you just want to win that game. If you're Rutgers, it'll be satisfying no matter what their record is. So that's still an opportunity. You're right about Oregon. Still an opportunity. I just wonder about a team with that much speed, that much talent. It's going to be really difficult. And no, Ohio State's just a train. I don't see that. What they did to Minnesota, I think they're easily the best team in the country right now. but again, it is a puncher. It is an opportunity. It's a shot. It's at least you're getting on the field. You have a shot to do something special and dramatic. Rutgers has had so many of them. Do you think this will be the year they get one?
I think it's tough. And I think we should establish the parameters that there's a reason everyone in college football was talking about that game on Saturday. It's because this stuff like this just doesn't happen all the time, right? So let's not make it seem like we are crushing Rutgers for not performing a college football miracle here. But the point stands because when you go 16 straight years without a ranked win, not a top 10 win, not a top 15, a ranked win, these things get magnified. It's going to be rough because Washington is not ranked this week, obviously. The opportunities you'll have will be Oregon at home, which is, again, 1% chance at best. Ohio State on the road, which 0.1% chance at best. Penn State at home, which even if they are completely apathetic, they're still so much more talented that just if they have the desire to win that game and Rutgers doesn't play the best game of its life, Penn State's just going to be a huge favorite. The only other one is Illinois, right? And Illinois looks pretty good. Outside of getting obliterated by Indiana, which looks like a top 10 team, they still look pretty good, and they're playing on the road. So I guess if you're asking me today to predict if Rutgers is going to get a ranked win this year, my answer is no. What about you?
I'm leaning in that direction as well. Yes, I do think Illinois is gettable. They almost got them last year. It's possible. I haven't seen anything to let me believe. I mean, they lost by 50 to Indiana. I get Indiana's pretty good, but still, so is Illinois going to be ranked when they get there? Do we know that for sure? I mean, I guess probably. I haven't looked at their schedule, but so yeah, I think that's a gettable win. That's a winnable game, right?
It's winnable. It's much more winnable than the other three,
right?
But you're asking a lot, right? But to that point, it's a hard game to win. So if you do win that game, it does take the monkey off your back, and it's a satisfying win because it's not like you're being a team that's 24 that snuck into the AP poll because lazy voters like me just can't decide who to put at 24. It's a legitimate top 25 team. It won't be UCLA beating Penn State, but it'll be a memorable win.
Exactly. It's a satisfying win. It's a memorable win. It's maybe your best Big Ten win. It's not this. I guess this is the way to look at it. Certainly. Yes. All right. The other game we watched, at least I was flicking back and forth. I watched some of it. Washington, Maryland. I have to say, I gave up on it. I think most Washington fans probably gave up on it. Washington, furious comeback in the fourth quarter to beat Maryland. I think anytime, you see a team go to the other coast from the West Coast and win, we're learning that that's more impressive than you think, no matter who the competition is. I mean, they're good. They're not great. They're good. Damon Williams Jr., 28-41, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns. This is a stat I noticed. Washington's final 5 drives, 45 plays, 298 yards, 24 points, and the game-ending kneel down. So clearly, after a certain point, they just took over, made adjustments, took over the game.
Yeah, I mean, they had explosive offensive numbers in the first couple. I mean, one game was against UC Davis, who they put up 70 points on, but they scored 59 points against Washington State, which is still a Power 5 team. And the only game they were really stopped was against Ohio State and their, again, NFL level defense, which is just basically impenetrable. So they have a lot of weapons. They have a mobile quarterback who can throw the ball. They have an elite receiver in Boston who showed some of that in Piscataway last year. They have Jonah Coleman, a running back who, again, half of his 10 touchdowns are against UC Davis, but still looks the part of a Big Ten running back, an elite Big Ten running back. So they have the offensive weapons. And for the first 35 minutes of the game, they didn't show it against Maryland, which has a decent defense. But then when they turned on. Like they just demolished Maryland at the back end there. Part of that is Maryland just not knowing how to win a game like this. Just a complete implosion. When you blow a 20-point lead in the second half, it's in the fourth quarter. It's inexcusable. But to Washington's credit, they got a ton of quick stops defensively, like quick stops, 2 minutes, get off the field, and then they just move the ball offensively in a very, like, one of the more impressive comebacks you'll see. So I think the lesson here is Rutgers should never feel comfortable at Washington, even if they build a little bit of a lead. Yeah, Washington has the weapons to immediately punch back. So it'll be, I don't know if it'll be a shootout per se, but I think it'll be a game where Rutgers will never feel comfortable if it's ahead. And if it's behind, it might have a tough time coming back because Washington always seems to have a way to hit you again offensively.
Right. Vegas looked up the matchup, looked at the two teams, 10.5 favorites by Washington. A little surprised, I guess, maybe not a little surprised, going on the road, going to the West Coast. But this is an interesting spot because I don't think, Washington looks like it's one of these teams that obviously it had to completely reload after DeBoer left for Alabama. You're starting to see that now. It's a very young team, a lot of talent on the team, but maybe, it's still developing this program. You can tell there's still a lot of things that this program's got to develop to get back to where it was. I don't know if it will get back to where it was, but certainly Jed Fish is a good coach. I'm interested to see how Rutgers offense plays in this game, right? Like this is where you really want to see Rutgers have an Ian Strong dominate. You want to see, Ethan Kalimanis go back to where he was playing early in the season. You want to shake off some of the struggles that it had late in the game against Minnesota. This is really an opportunity. Let's see, put a lot of points on the board. Let's make this a shootout. I think that's the best chance Rutgers has to win this game. Do you agree? Yeah,
I think that's the best way Rutgers has to win any game, frankly, from here on out. Though it will be interesting to see what kind of adjustments the defense will make after a bye week. Greg Schiano is notoriously very good after the bye week. I imagine the defense will see some changes, whether it's personnel, whether it's a dumbing down of what they do, or whatever it may be. And they're going to need to perform somewhat well for the offense to have a chance to win the game. But yes, the offense is going to have to carry Rutgers. And to that end, what have they installed in the bye week? What have they changed? Is Ian Strong healthier, because obviously he missed the game and was dealing with that. Is he healthier? Is he going to be able to be a guy that can overcome the constant double coverage? Is Rutgers going to be able to take advantage of it? It's going to be a test, because as we spoke last week, this is a game Rutgers essentially has to have to keep on track to go to a bowl game, especially because in that Washington-Maryland game, we saw Maryland is not a pushover. Maryland is a good team, or at least they're not a bottom of the barrel Big Ten team. Like, they're going to be a difficult team to beat at home, where you've only beaten Maryland once since joining the Big Ten. I was actually kind of struck by that stat when I looked it up on Sunday. And then you look at, not to get away from Washington, but you look at the other Big Ten game, Illinois-Purdue. Purdue isn't good, but they put up points. And when you put up points, you have a chance against anyone. And when you host Rutgers with the schedule you have, that's one of the games you look at that maybe you can have. If you're going to have one Big Ten win, that might be it for Purdue. So there are no gimmies left on the Rutgers schedule. And it's starting with Washington. You have to get a win to get some momentum, because otherwise you're really back against the wall, have to win every must-win game from here on out. And after starting 0-3, that's not an easy task at all.
Right. I guess we have to give Greg Schiano some credit. Last year we were sitting in the same situation, right? The bye. We were like, okay, forget it. This is 4-8. This could be a disaster. I remember thinking that okay, the program's going to bottom out. High expectations. We thought this was an 8-4 season. It was going to be the opposite. And to his credit, rallied the troops, found something despite just a ridiculous amount of injuries on defense. Managed to get a little bit, pull things together. I don't know how much of it was strategy. I don't know how much of it was personnel, but give him credit for salvaging that season. Are we in that situation now? And if we are, is there something, do you think there's something personnel wise, strategy wise, that we are not seeing that he can do to make an instant fix here?
Nothing major, nothing like transformative, no like game-changing plays or moves or whatever. Because if they had that, I think they would do that in the last 2 weeks. But it's cleaning up the things that have just been absolutely killing them. The big plays defensively, the special team gaffes that are just head-scratching, and that essentially cost them 2 games against Minnesota and Iowa. So if you can hit your chip shot field goals, if you can not give up big kick returns, you're already kind of ahead of the game there. As far as big picture, I don't know if it's exactly the same as last year, because last year you didn't have a game like Oregon where, in smack dab in the middle of a stretch like this, you realistically have no chance. You can't bank on a win there. But you have Washington on the road. You have road games at Purdue and Illinois, and then you have a game against Maryland. Those are 4 games that will determine the season, essentially, right? Like, you're not going to beat Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State barring miracle, despite what we just said about UCLA. So if there is going to be a turnaround, it's here. It's in this month stretch, and it starts in Seattle. And if you don't win in Washington, at least make it a game where, similar to Minnesota, I guess, you lose last second or a 1-score game, and you feel like you're close, so that when you do play Purdue, Illinois, Maryland, you feel like you go into those games with the chance. Because if you get blown out in Washington, I think it's going to be hard to keep. I know we said that last year when they were 4 straight losses into the bye week. Are they going to be able to recover? I still think it's going to be really hard to recover. If you lose at Washington, you lose at Oregon. That's 4 straight losses, and no margin for error. That's going to be as hard as it was last year. I think it would get even harder this year to come back from that.
Right. Then things really are spiraling. Yeah. And especially if it's 4 straight losses and you still got Penn State and Ohio State in the schedule. That you're right. That's just a different feel to it. Absolutely. Yeah. This is a really important game for any hope that this will be a bowl season, any hope that there'll be something special to come, more than just UCLA throwing a dart, stealing one late in the year. All right. I do want to dive into another topic, and we'll make our picks with Eric LeGrand when we have him on in a minute in the next segment. But you had a great profile of Kelly Zinn today, and I hope people will take time to read it, because there's just a lot about her background. And I think what you learn about Kelly Zinn in this story is just how she got here. Kind of illustrates how she's going to be, what kind of athletic director she's going to be, in my opinion. Right? Like, you see someone who really had to claw their way up to the top of an athletic department, and just hard work, hustle, determination. There's just a lot about her background to like. Like, this is not someone who pulling out of a hat, who, the governor decided to make athletic director, or, this is somebody who has worked their entire career to get here. And just like and from a small town roots too. I think the star of the story, in my opinion, was her dad. How proud he is to see what she's done, to see the money she's making. I mean, you just came across like, this, and I'm rambling, but the fact he took her to the White House at one point to see, to see experiences, things. So much about that just resonated with me.
Yeah, I think it's a very relatable story. Her dad called it rags to riches because of where he came from in 2 generations where they are now, which is incredible. Her dad, by the way, is one of the most fun interviews I've ever had. I spoke to him for an hour, and I could have sat at a bar with him and talked to him for the whole night. He was just
talking about his daughter, of course. Who wouldn't want to do that? Yes, I can take you to a bar talking about my daughter. She scored 2 goals against the Vikings in Demarest, baby.
Yes. I understand that, but I was really impressed with not only how much she loved his daughter, obviously, but the level of detail of things he remembers. The guy is 78 years old, and he is sharp. He remembers everything to a very impressive detail, which is just a dream, obviously, for a guy like me writing a profile on his daughter. And I think what I took away from Kelly, just like broadly of her as a person, is she goes all's in, if you will mind the pun. But she does everything at 100%. She's in high school. She's in literally every club humanly possible. I looked through her yearbook. The list is this big. She was a female athlete of the year. She just was, she keeps saying it's because she's from a small town and the competition wasn't that great, but to be the first female athlete of the year in the 80s, where it's not like today where, girls play high school sports to the same level as the men. Like, she really stood out. She stood out as a baseball player as a kid. And she's working in the summer. She's working at, I thought this was just awesome. She works at a steakhouse in the poultry capital of West Virginia. Just a beautiful thing there. And then she's in college and she's in classes. She's interning at the compliance department because that was her foot in the door to get into the athletic department and get into that world that she wants to. And she's working at a JCPenney call center and another diner and just doing, my point is like every hour of every day is filled with something for Kelly. She's highly motivated. She has worked towards this for her entire life. And now that she's here, she's taking the same attitude in being ingrained in just diving into the community and going around the tailgates and meeting people and talking to them and meeting with her staff and her coaches and her players and just learning everything she possibly can to come here, what she achieved to do, which is to win. And I think it's admirable to, it's one thing to achieve your dream, but it's not like she got satisfied with that. She's continually working hard to make this opportunity worth it. And I think I came away really liking Kelly and her story. And I think I've said this before, but if this doesn't work out, it won't be for a lack of effort on her part. I think she will continue to try really hard. The 337 meetings to me really stuck out. Just as how many people she's meeting, talking on the phone, talking to small donors, big donors, new donors, old donors, talking to corporate partners she's trying to get. She's trying to sell Taylor ham while she's talking to a business forum in New Jersey earlier this month. Just a lot to like. And I think if you're a Rutgers fan and you read the way not only Kelly talks about wanting to work for the fan base, but the way other people that she's worked with, not just her father, who naturally is going to be very proud of his daughter, but the people who hired her and who she worked under over these years, the way they talk about her, it's not the pleasantries you hear from when you do these profiles. I think they were really heartfelt and complimentary. And I think that kind of shines in the way she's been here for the first 2 months since she got hired.
And you spent some time walking with her in the parking lot. And I think, you mentioned to donors, meetings with people, alums, important people, but I think that goes a long way for me. And I don't know that we've seen a lot of that, of just someone being out there amongst the masses, for lack of a better word, to the rank and file fans. And I remember this, and this was always something that I heard about Pat Hobbs before, he became a complete pariah, was that like he just wasn't engaged with the regular donor, the guy giving $50 a month, the guy who's been a season ticket holder for 37 years, and I think that to me makes an impact. And you saw it for you. You saw her walk around the parking lot. There's some great little anecdotes about her, meeting fans.
Yeah. I mean, one fan told me that he appreciates her doing this because no one else has. Right. I took straw polls of fans. Like, have you ever seen an athletic director do that? Some people said Pernetti might've done it one or twice. A couple of people told me Pat might've done it early on, a couple, maybe one or twice, but to the level that she's doing it. She did it the first game, which is understandable. It's her first game day. She wants to meet people. She did it the second game day and the third game day. She's gone to the same tailgate who made her first Taylor ham, egg, and cheese and gone back every other time. She brought her father back. She brought Brittany Odell, who she just hired to be the senior women's administrator. She brought her to that tailgate. That might be her place of closing prospective hires, is just bring her to get a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. But my point being that she's around all the time. This wasn't because I was following her on the first game day. This wasn't a photo op. This is what she does. And I think that's going to be the way she leads, because I think she understands that at a place like Rutgers, it takes a village. Yes, you need the whales, and ultimately the whales will determine your success. But it's important to keep this long-standing fan base, the people who have stuck by Rutgers for 50 years, despite having very little reason to want to keep coming back. I think she understands the importance of those people, and she's not only just saying that, she's putting that forth with her actions.
All right, you've made the rounds here. Not only did you do tailgates with Kelly Zinn, but you were at a college volleyball game, the big game. Nebraska came to town, filled the rack. How was that? What was the experience there?
Yeah, so Kelly was also there. Her and her husband Nate have been pretty much everywhere. That was another thing that stuck with me. But I was there just to see what it's like. And someone compared it perfectly to me. It's Caitlin Clark-esque. When Caitlin Clark came a couple years ago and that place was filled by people everywhere.
Right.
And this is just at a team level. I mean, I couldn't find someone who came from Nebraska. That was, I walked, there was a line that came from the start of the rack all the way down to the yellow lot, down towards the street. Just the longest line I've ever seen at the rack. And I've been to men's basketball games against top 10 teams with atmospheres that you wouldn't believe. It was incredible.
Wow.
The amount of people that were there. And I went down the line, tried to find someone from Nebraska, couldn't, but I found people from Maryland, from Virginia, from Long Island, from Connecticut, people who came from all over to see Nebraska. And one person told me they live in Maryland. They came up to watch them. His brother lives in Nebraska, and he can't get tickets to watch Nebraska volleyball in Nebraska, which is incredible to me. He'd have a better chance watching Nebraska volleyball if he flew into New Jersey and watched them at the rack. My point is this: Rutgers cannot compete with Nebraska volleyball. They're the Kentucky men's basketball of volleyball, right? That's not what I'm saying, but I was struck by the atmosphere at the rack.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand. You hear the noise of men's basketball fans, and it's loud and the great atmosphere. When you have 8,000 teenage girls who care so passionately about Nebraska, like Taylor Swift is on the court, and they get a kill at the end of a rally, it is something I have never heard before. The atmosphere was incredible. My point in telling this is that if I don't know what Kelly Zinn's priorities are as far as revenue sharing for Olympic sports, right? If volleyball is ever able to build itself up beyond the basement of the Big Ten and become even a competent, serviceable Big Ten team that can compete with everyone outside of the Nebraskas, the Wisconsins, the Minnesotas, the Penn States, which are just so much ahead of everyone else. But if they can compete with the middle tier teams and they can get 6,000 people at the rack, that will be an environment that rivals men's basketball and wrestling as a fun place to go to watch a game. And I think that's the next frontier of the Big Ten, I think, is volleyball. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's feasible, how much investment has to be made, but if they're able to do that, I mean, I was just blown away by what I saw.
It's funny because I would have put, if I were to rank the teams where you're going to put the resources, the limited resources Rutgers has, and of course, 90% is going to football and men's basketball. And by football and men's basketball, I mean like 85% is going to football. I would have put volleyball very close to the bottom of that list because of this reason. Like for me, it's not about, getting a big crowd. It's where can you win? And I don't know that, if you were looking at the sports where I think you can win outside of the two revenue sports, it's women's basketball, it's lacrosse, it's these teams where, places where you've got talent in state, where you've got more of an opportunity, less competition. I guess and I understand what you're saying. It's a really interesting question. And I would love to know, like, if Kelly Zinn has a secret ranking, a secret list of how she feels about it. I'd love to know the answer, because maybe it is something like volleyball where, okay, we can get to the middle of the pack and then it's not a revenue producing sport maybe, but all of a sudden, okay, you can see the bottom line in that sport growing. It's a fascinating question. And it's one I hadn't really thought about.
So there's two schools of thought, I think, right? I agree with you that if you're trying to create winning programs, if you're trying to establish your footprint in one program that you win championships or compete for championships regularly, you'd put it in field hockey or women's soccer, maybe men's soccer, Men's lacrosse, if you're really willing to, put a sizable bag there. These are sports that have proven they can win.
Women's basketball,
Women's basketball, that's a great point. Though again, that the threshold for that is higher than a field hockey. Field hockey or women's soccer, if you throw $1 million at them, they're going to win a national championship, or at least come close to it, right? That doesn't stretch as far for men's lacrosse. That's more of the wrestling. Well, wrestling is a whole other beast, but my point is it's a tier above. Now, influence, I think. Volleyball now charges people to go to the games, right? Like they changed that this year. They've gotten, there with the times. Again, if you can create, and I know volleyball isn't a big sport in New Jersey, but if you can create excitement and buzz around volleyball, you can get 6,000 people at the rack paying tickets to be there, paying like I did $6.50 for a Diet Coke, which should be illegal. I'm not saying it's the rack's fault. Every event over price gouges for the stuff, but I had not bought a drink at an event like this in years, and I almost wanted to throw my credit card outside. Like $6.50 for a Diet Coke is anyway. My point is, if your goal is to generate revenue, or at least come close to it, volleyball, wrestling, maybe men's lax. These are the sports that people will come out to. Because even if you have a national championship winning field hockey or women's soccer program, I just don't see the Bauer Complex or your sec field getting filled up. I just don't see the buzz for those sports being at that level. So if you want crowds, you go to those sports. If you want wins for whatever they're worth, I mean, you tell me, how valuable would a national championship in field hockey or women's soccer be to Rutgers?
I mean, at least it would cross off you'd have one. I think it'd be pretty. The first team to win one is going to be remembered forever. I think that there's some level of importance to that. I think Rutgers would celebrate any national championship at this point. What is that? I don't know what that word means. I think it is, proof of concept at Rutgers. Absolutely. It would be a big deal to win a national championship in anything.
So you lean towards the sides of, if you're going to invest in one or two sports, the field hockey, women's soccer side, and not the volleyball, men's lacrosse,
100%. I want to win. I've listened to President Tate win. That's it. That's totally. If I want Final Fours, I want banners, I want rings, I want trophies. I don't want someone like you spending $6.50 in a Diet Coke. I don't care about that. You're $100 million in the hole. What does it matter that you're going to be? It's really not that much money in the first. So you'd be $99.75 million in the hole. Yeah, I think I'd rather just let's win. That's my theory.
I lean that way. I would be interested, fans that are listening to this, give your opinions in the comments and tweet at us and all that good stuff. Email us, because I think it is an interesting debate. Obviously, the most important opinion in all of this is Kelly Zinn. I don't know if she'll ever reveal her official power rankings, as you say, but I think the proof will be in the pudding in the next couple of years to see where exactly. Like the Olympic sports where they call it Kelly and say, we need this much money, and she's given the green light, like that Olympic sport story I told in our profile. Where those money is distributed will be the answer to the question of what the priorities are.
This is the most spirited volleyball conversation we've ever had on the Rutgers Rant.
I'm telling you, man, it is the sport of the future in the Big Ten, and you had to be there. It was again, unlike anything I've ever experienced covering a Rutgers sporting event. When they announced the starting lineup, there was a girl in Nebraska who apparently is like a micro celebrity. People love her. She's the best player in the country. When they announced her name, it was like Michael Jordan being called out in the 96 Bulls at the United Center. And I do only exaggerate a little bit. It was unreal.
Was Eric LeGrand there?
Not that I know of, but we can ask him.
We should ask him. That sounds like he very rarely misses something that's of an event. I'm sure he had something else going on. It would have been there. All right.
I think he was. We can ask him about this. I think he was with Conor McGregor on Saturday, so he couldn't make it.
That's perfect. Hanging out with Conor McGregor. Let make that his first question. So how was Conor? And believe me, we're going to talk about this with Eric. The number of celebrities he has met, it is astounding. And it's really funny. He's got some great stories. All right, we'll be back with Eric. We'll make our picks for the Washington game. Have a good conversation. Hang on for 1 second.
Doug. Limu and I always tell you to customize your car insurance and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. But now, we want you to feel it. Cue the emu music, Limu. Save yourself money today. Increase your wealth. Customize and save, we say. That may have been too much feeling.
Only pay for what you need at LibertyMutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Savings vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.
All right, we are back with the man, Eric LeGrand. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always good to chat with you.
Fit into your busy schedule. Now, before you came on, we were talking about you might have been at the Rutgers volleyball game this weekend, but instead you're hanging out with Conor McGregor. We saw on is that right? How was that?
That was first off the way it came about. So, as most people know, my business partner Brian Axelrod worked with Conor McGregor on Proper 12 Whiskey when they first launched back in the day and whatnot. And obviously, they moved on from that after their acquisition. So I get off the phone with him on Friday when he just lands back from Mexico. He was out there with one of his other brands. And I asked him, I go, what do you got going on tonight? He goes, the bare knuckle fighting is in town. Connor's going to be over at American Whiskey, so I got to go over there. I was like, oh, for real? And then I was talking about going to the bare knuckle fighting already with my friend Dilio on Saturday. So, of course, I was like, I was going to let it be. Dilio, my friend, texted me, he goes, are we going tomorrow? Because I'm like, I really didn't look into tickets and blah, blah, blah. He goes, listen, my wife is pregnant, but I just put in an offer on the house, so I got a free pass for a night. So so I'm like, well, Connor's actually going to be at American Whiskey tonight. He goes, so are we going tonight or tomorrow? Are we really about to do this? I'm like, I'm in a Rutgers long sleeve. I'm like in sweatpants at home, relaxing. He goes, we're going one night. I'm like, let's just go tonight. And wow. Wow.
That's great. Nice.
Connor's a big time smack talker. Were you guys smack talking about Proper 12 versus LeGrand Whiskey, or did he just move up and say that yours is better?
So he's known me for a while. We just never met, but he knows me because he follows Brian and this and that. So he comes out of the bathroom and he sees me and he goes, Rack, and grabs my face and kisses me on the head. I'm like, oh, like what is going on right now? And then he's like, finally, great to meet you, all this and that, this football now, Irish accent. And, thank you for coming, this and that. And then Brian hands him the bottle, and then you saw in the video as he takes a look at the bottle and whatnot. And he's like, we're on LeGrand, baby. This is how we do it. I'm like, is he really going to take a sip out of the bottle? And typical kind of fashion, throws it right back. And after that, man, it was awesome. We got to, chit-chat with him for a while. And his whole entourage, they were all cool and welcoming to me. But, man, those people know how to party, let's just say.
Well, he's not going to be the only guy to take a sip in front of you. Right now, someone went to the liquor store today.
So just to set the stage, I tried to find the Scarlet series. I went all over New Brunswick and Somerset. They all told me it's coming tomorrow, but I'm not one to disappoint. I got the other limited edition that you released recently. I got a Canada shot glass with a nice little maple leaf. It's the only one I had in my house. I would do a Block R one. I don't have one, but cheers to you. Cheers to your whiskey, Eric. It's 3:00 on the East Coast, but it's 5:00 somewhere. So I'll take one. I'll take one to you. And don't mind my face. I'm not a big whiskey person, so if I make an ugly face, no offense to LeGrand Whiskey, it's all whiskey. But
it's all
cheers.
good. It's all good, brother. I know. You'll take it back. You'll be all right. You'll be all right.
Not going to survive the nose or anything. You're not going to give it a little something. Nothing. That's it.
He's not a whiskey connoisseur to spinning around, get the notes, all the smelling notes out of it, and then you take a sip and tell you, oh, it tastes on the palate, fruity. I'm getting this calm. But I'm trying to learn it as a bourbon guy. I always enjoyed bourbon. As I got older, but I still cannot figure out the palate as some of these bourbon experts can do. I can't do it. I can tell you if it's good or if it's not good, but I can't tell you what's in it. But I'll tell you what, I've had enough of it now over the past 3 years where I'm pretty good to tell you this is good bourbon or nah, not so much.
You think there's a chance they're making it all up? They're just full of this is some chocolate here I taste too, right? Maybe.
Sometimes I think that until there's this one that the top dog of the bourbon game named Fred Minnick, and we sent him a bottle, and it was absolutely insane. He knew nothing about where we were getting our juice from and sourcing and whatnot. He opened up the bottle and he smelled it. He goes, this smells like Green River product. I'm like, what the? That's where we source from, Green River. Wow. Opened it and smelled it and was like, oh, this smells like Green River. And literally he texted me, he goes, I just want to confirm, where do you guys get your product? I'm like, Green River. He goes, oh, okay, thank you. And I was like, he He did after tasting it and smelled it. He confirmed. I was like, "That's insane. Like that's crazy."
It's pretty amazing. I tasted some vanilla in this one, but I only know that because I read the description before we recorded this episode. And I knew there was vanilla and black cherry in it. So I cheated a little bit. It was very good, by the way. That I didn't make a face. It went down smooth. The burn is something I don't think I will ever get used to. It always just kind of hangs back there. But that's probably part of the design, I think.
And I mean, in the bourbon world, the people that enjoy it, they love that burn. As long as they can get the taste from it, the smoothness from it, they enjoy the burn, and especially the higher the proof, the more burn to it. So now I feel like, I've put out product with 136.6 proof. Now that's going to light you on fire. So I've been able to now, I feel like, step up with the big dogs and handle all of that. Where the new one that we just released is only a 92 proof. I'm not going to lie. I feel like I was drinking water.
If we get Fonseca the 136 proof, we'll need some LeGrand coffee to get him through the rest of the show.
Super.
Well,
I
Eric,
was going to say, I appreciate you, Dubai, now. And so for the Scarlet Knights series, obviously we're starting to get that out all throughout the state. As you see, a lot of the bars and the restaurants and liquor stores are getting their product in, like a good amount. Have taken them in, like the big brand, like Total Wines will be in all 7 of them throughout the state. Bottle Republic and Somerset has taken them in. I think they're already reordering because they were sold out. All the bars like around New Brunswick and the campus, they're all getting their product in this week. So it's funny because when you make the announcement, it's funny. It's like a 3-tier system. So we have our product. That's that old company called MHW. Then our distributor Allied gets it from them. Then Allied sells it to the retailer. So when we make the announcement, it's not on the shelves yet. You can purchase it online, but I had so many text messages and emails. Where are the bottles? Where are the bottles? Where are the bottles? I'm like, give us a week, guys. Give us some time.
People thirsty.
People are too excited. Yeah.
No, it's exciting. It was quite the process to be able to do this over. I would say 9-month process to get this approval with the block R on the label, being able to get it, through just the powers that be at Rutgers University. And for them to
only imagine how hard that was. I can only imagine.
It was a process, but I'll tell you what, they were pretty pumped about it when we brought up the idea. It's just like, okay, we got to get approval from this side, this side, this side, this side. But for somehow, somewhere, they were like, Eric, if this is going to get done, you're the one to do it. And here we are putting a block R on a bottle, which obviously I say it goes past football and athletics. This is the university now. Like, we're a proud partner of Rutgers Athletics, but that block R represents more than just Rutgers Athletics. It represents the whole university. This is why this collaboration is so big because, yes, do I want to see people enjoying it at tailgates? Yes, but I want to see people enjoying it after graduation, after big moments, obviously 21 and older. But this is what it's about, the whole university coming together in a collaborative effort. So obviously, we're going to be raising funds with it, but to enjoy celebratory moments.
Outstanding.
I'm personally curious, before we move on from Conor McGregor, where does he rank in the pantheon of celebrities you met? Because you've met pretty much every famous person on earth at this point, it feels like.
Yeah, he's up there with like Dwayne Johnson, obviously, The Rock and whatnot. You look at, I didn't realize how many followers he had until I tagged him. Like 47 million followers on Instagram. I was like, wow, this guy is like iconic. I know. Worldwide. I mean, I never met Messi, but when he came to Jersey for the first time, I saw him like walk by. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I've seen Michael Jordan in passing at the Barclays Center as well. But actually meeting and talking to him, like I said, he's up there with The Rock, Kevin Hart. Jeez, I can't even think of him.
My favorite was Tiger Woods was my favorite. I remember we got you into the Barclays, and he's coming off the course after a shitty round, and you're sitting there in your chair. I thought he was like you're like I could like he was like leaning into you. I'm like, is Eric giving a pep talk to freaking Tiger Woods here? What is going on?
He was so like amped, like right there. He was just like, man, it's freaking hot out here, man. Sweating my ass off, and I'm standing there cracking up laughing. Oh my God, that's Tiger.
Amazing.
Outstanding.
It was cool. It was a very cool moment, and being able to just, like I said, just spur the moment. Like that wasn't planned. That's the coolest part about it.
Right.
And we got to hang out with him as he's showing off the Rutgers bottle. Who would have thought Conor McGregor showing off the Rutgers University collaboration of LeGrand whiskey?
That's great stuff. So we're coming up on the 15-year anniversary. Can you imagine that it's been that long? And when you reflect on it now, all the stuff that's gone on in your life, I mean, how do you view this part of your life?
It's actually kind of crazy, Steve, because I think about it as like it's went by fast and slow all at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like fast when you reflect on all the, like you just said, different things that I've done with businesses, foundation, books, this, that, broadcasting. It's pretty fast. But then when you think about the journey from where I was 15 years ago playing football, that feels like a whole lifetime ago. Mm-hmm. I was out there on that practice field. So it's like fast and slow, but I kind of just take it in, as an appreciation on just everything that I've been able to do. The spur of the moment opportunities like last Friday, like stuff like that, it's honestly just a blessing to me to be able to be in the presence of just some great people, whether if they're celebrities or not. Some great people have come my way through these 15 years and have shown me a lot of love, support, respect. That's the coolest part about it. And it's just me being who I am and showing off this personality that I have, and I'm not putting on a front. This is, this is who I am. You slept in my couch right on the other side of my room.
I did.
The struggles, what it is like. Not every day is easy, but I would generally wake up with a purpose and go out there and try to be the best that I could be.
That was still my favorite thing. If someone who's never been disarmed the way you did, because I showed up at your house to do the story, I was going to spend like 36 hours with you, and of course I was like, well, I'm going to sleep here. I got to bring a pillow. So I'm a little nervous. I'm walking into your house with this pillow under and you look at me and you go, well, you look like you're going to summer camp.
He comes in with the body size pillows, like the same size as his body. I'm like, what is he doing? Going to Boy Scout camp right now? Like, what is going on? He's coming for a sleepover for one night.
You gotta be comfortable. Come on,
He's taller than you.
Some sciatica here. I gotta be careful.
Eric, you tell me. Steve wrote about the entire experience, but from your perspective, was Steve a big snorer? Like, what kind of sleeper was he? Did you hear him through the other side of the wall?
I was so exhausted at the end of that day because I think we went out to the Mets game with some friends before that. We were tailgating in the sun. It was hot as all the hell out there. By the time we got home and I finally got settled in the bed with my aide that Steve seen, through my whole system, put me in the bed. I was out like the lights in the middle of the night. I remember I think I called Royce to give me a drink or something, or I had an itch. And then right after that, I was out again. So, and we were up early that next day for the walk. So I don't remember hearing Steve sleep at all because
I didn't sleep at all. I was like, oh yeah, the pillow didn't work.
Yeah,
I've never thought about that. We write the story and we have the video of like your friend pouring your beer, and my editor was so fast. Eric LeGrand is drinking a beer. I'm like, yeah, he's a dude at a baseball game. What do you how think he's doing? Of course he's having a beer. I just love that. Like, look at this. We've got Eric LeGrand, man of the people, having a beer. It's great.
Exactly. That was one of the main reasons why I started the whiskey company, because those reactions of people seeing me out and about drinking and enjoying a cocktail, enjoying a beer, they're in shock sometimes. And I'm like, I'm just a regular person, just like you. Just this wheelchair obviously adds a different factor to it, but I don't have anything medically that's holding me back from it. So, which at that time, I was like 26 years old, 27 years old. Of course, I was having fun.
You could hold it better back then, right?
Oh yeah. We'll get into that too. But yes, at 20 back then, it could hold it a whole lot better than at 35.
Well, to that point, I meant to ask before with the whiskey. How does Eric LeGrand? We know how Arnold Palmer drinks an Arnold Palmer. How does Eric LeGrand drink LeGrand whiskey? Straight in a whiskey sour? What's the go-to?
That's a great question, Fonseca. So it all depends on the scene. And from around my bourbon guys, my bourbon nerds, the geeks, we're drinking straight neat. We're drinking neat. We're getting all the notes and all of that. If I'm out at a restaurant or a bar, whatever, if they're serving up a special cocktail, I'm going to drink the cocktail. And a lot of times they make a lot of fruity cocktails, and I'm not a huge into that. They taste delicious, but as you said, I'm 35 now. My stomach afterwards. Oof. Coming home after a few of the fruity cocktails with the bourbon is rough, but if it's my choice, I'm either drinking a whiskey sour or old fashioned. Like that's if there's no cocktail menu with a special drink, I'm ordering a LeGrand old fashioned or a LeGrand whiskey sour. That's my go-to when I'm out and about. And then I've also had times where I've been with my friends and people like, you don't do shots of bourbon. Well, for some reason, the shots of bourbon doesn't hurt my stomach as much as the cocktails. And I feel like I could take back 10 to 15 on a good night. Back when I first launched. Now, I don't know if I could do 10 to 15.
How many do you have to do to watch this defense right now? How about that for a transition, huh?
Only you, Steve. Only you with 30 flat transition.
What's wrong with this D though, man? Come on, you're familiar with this. You've watched this team. Are you a little surprised at how much they've struggled?
Yeah, I am surprised. It's tough, and obviously anything that I say, they already know. Believe me, behind the scenes, they know the struggles of what's going on with this defense. And if we know Shiano, I can only imagine what those practices can be like behind the scenes when it comes to this. But it's literally, honestly, assignment football beginning. These new guys learning where they're supposed to be, setting the edge of defenses, pressing the hip, like the basic fundamentals as we saw a lot of off the tackle runs, people getting outside. What is that? That's either the DN or the corners not setting the edge of the defense and allowing your defense to pursue. Guys shooting into the wrong gaps. And we know when you play a Cochiano type of defense, you have to be gap sound. If you jump out of your gap trying to make a play, you get gashed. And what have we seen? So when those big plays happen, it's guys in the wrong gap, jumping out of them, not being in the right place at the right time, or bad angles as well, too, taking the wrong pursuit angles. So that's when you get down into really the football 101. What's happening? Because as a casual fan, you just see, the big plays happen, like, oh, my God, again. But it's honestly guys aligning right assignment, knowing what they're supposed to be doing, and then battling versus Big Ten offensive linemen. That's a whole part of it, too. You got to have bodies rotating in and out. And sometimes when you bring a guy in that may not be, ready as, your starter, you get beat on certain plays. Like, people don't realize that. Like, you don't realize sometimes who's in at that time when a big play happens. You just see the big play happen. But it might be a guy in there that may not be as prepared to be in that moment and that big play happens. So it's a mixture of both things, but they know they got to get this figured out fast. We know that what the remainder of the schedule is. They know what the remainder of the schedule is. They got to figure out how to play assignment football and get pressure on the quarterback, which is hard to do at Rutgers. They've noticed with 4 people. So what do they do then? Then you start blitzing, and that's when you leave your DBs on islands. And that's what we've seen so far with the Scarlet Knights defense that has called their biggest issues is not being in the right place at the right time, and then poor angles and not tackling.
Right. So it's hard to fix it all in 1 week, right? But they did have a bye week. You've been in locker rooms headed by Greg Schiano. You've heard Greg talk dozens of times, maybe hundreds of times. What is your best guess at what Greg is telling the team that first meeting after Minnesota during the bye week? Like, what's his message to the team? What is he telling these guys? Is he trying to fire them up? Is he hard on them? Is he teaching? Like, what's your best guess of what Greg said to them the first time they sat down after the Minnesota game?
A little bit of fire and teach. I know Coach, if I know him the way I know him, there's always going to be fire in that meeting. And then you go into the teaching part, but the teaching becomes to a certain point of demanding. You're demanding now when you're having these issues. I'll never forget, Steve. You'll remember this. It's like, I don't know if you remember 2008 when we were 1-5. Mm-hmm. 1-5. Coming to that Hale Center every day was, that was rough. As a freshman, I didn't know what the heck was going on and what to expect. I'm like, is this what it's like? Like, it felt like you were going to a funeral almost every day. And then you need one thing to go right. We were playing UConn. Remember they had that missed field goal? I think we won like 13-12. And one thing went right for you, and the whole mood changed and everything just turned around. And I feel like they're at that point where the coach knows that these guys are giving their all. They're trying. They're trying to do what the coaches are asking them to do. They need that one break, that one little break that it just goes their way on one side. And you'll see a shift, a growth in their offense, and that the mental toughness that they're probably developing now to deal with these losses like this. It's draining on you, but it builds that callus around it. And that's what I'm hoping that we can be able to get on a Friday night where that one thing goes the right way. And it's like, you know what? We can do this. Like, sometimes you just need to see that. But I know Coach Schiano is going to be fiery and then demanding. And they're at that point now. You got to demand.
You know Greg really well. This is my question for you. Long term, how long do you think he stays on the sidelines? What do you think his goal is as far as his career and continuing coaching?
How old is he? How old is he? He's not 60 yet, is he?
He's almost 60, right?
I think he's 59. I could be wrong.
Yeah, like 58, 59. I mean, I don't know if I can see Coach Shiano. He's one of those guys where I don't know what he would do if he wasn't coaching.
That's true.
Type of thing. Like I know he's very smart. I know he's very business savvy as well. He knows marketing too. That's the things that people don't see. I actually got to learn more and more about him now owning businesses and actually hearing him speak about stuff. I'm like, oh, this guy's actually very smart as like a CEO of a company. But like I just can't see him not being on that side because of that adrenaline that he gets in that way that he is. Because let's just say being a football coach, you know, and the stuff that you demand of your players, yes, it sets you up for life and stuff, but sometimes when you go into the real world, like I would say, like the corporate world, you can't kind of be like that and whatnot. And obviously he's made enough money for his family and whatnot where he could probably retire, you know, live off investments and things like that. But I can't not see him coaching because of just this is all I know of him and this is what I know he loves. And I'm sure long nights, early mornings is draining. You know, as you get older, it's harder to do, but I just can't see him not doing it. I don't know what Shiano's like without football.
I know Greg Schiano. I don't know him as well as you do. I know that the only thing he's thinking about isn't 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It's this Friday against Washington, a big game, and that's what we're here for. We're here to pick the game. We have Washington -9.5. Eric, I don't know if you're a gambler or not, but we here always we've started kind of taking the lines. I'm not going to make you answer that question whether to use FanDuel or DraftKings or whatnot, but I guess we'll
believe me, if he used one of those, he'd be sponsoring it. He wouldn't be telling you. He'd be come on, he'd be on TV.
Listen, I definitely gambled college football though. Your boy doesn't touch that. I don't like spread. The spreads in college football are just too insane for me. Don't mess with them. Too volatile. Don't like them. And like I hate seeing open up the app and you see spread -37.5. I'm like, what am I going to do with that? Like, no. I stick with my NFL, MLB, and maybe some college hoops.
There we go. Well, for today, we'll do college football, not for money, but for a little bragging rights over Politi, which everyone enjoys having. So I guess we'll start with you, Eric. Washington -9.5. Rutgers going out there on a Friday night. How do you see this game playing out? Do the Scarlet Knights end the losing streak and get a big win in Seattle?
I mean, this is where I feel like the do or die part of the season. This is the turning point of it, coming off of a bye week now, which I think is clutch, having to go all the way out there because they've had that bye week. This is where you pull that 9.5 upset, obviously, because I mean, what I don't want to say it could get worse because it obviously could always get worse, but where they're at in this time and the talent that they have on this offensive side of the ball, which we haven't talked about, this is where I think that they have to really step up, going on the road and silencing a raucous Washington crowd. If they could do that, that might be able to give the defense, you know, some motivation. It's going to be quiet on that side of the ball. They got a lot of work ahead of them, obviously, dealing with Damon Williams, we were just talking about before we jumped on, and they're running back from Washington, man. He's a special player as well. But the offense, I think, is where it's really going to be highlighted, where they really show out, because those two guys that wide out, Ian Strong and KJ Duff, it's been a long time since we've seen anybody like that. And then you throw Lightning in there and DT Sheffield. And they think Kelly McManus, man, I'm smiling watching the offense up there in the box like this. We haven't seen an offense like this in a while at Rutgers, and they got playmakers, guys that are going to play on Sunday. So this is where we're going to be. I think we're going to really lean on him and Antoine Raymond. He's stepping in. I'll tell you what, that's one thing Rutgers does not have issues with. We always got a running back. And Antoine Raymond is stepping in nice. So this is where I think Rutgers can keep that 9.5 close because of that offense. The defense just needs that one break, whether if it's an interception or a fumble, to turn away this game. So I'm pretty confident in that saying that 9.5 spread.
All right, got a score for us?
I'm going to go 31. Actually, no, let me do this. 20-24 Rutgers.
All right, there you go. Picking the Scarlet Knights. All right, who's next? 1 second. You want me to go?
You go next because you're ahead of me, so I want to be able to plot my revenge. And
yeah, it was a little harder. It was a little harder picking against the Scarlet Knights when Catherine Tappan was on the show. Eric, up with you though, I'm afraid I'm gonna do it. This is the first time I have picked against the Scarlet Knights. I just don't feel great about going cross country in this game. Don't like what I've seen from the defense. I need to see it. So I'm gonna go a Washington 38, Rutgers 27 kind of game, just barely covering the spread, but. Yeah, that's I just don't love the matchup and don't love the travel, don't love the defense. Going the other direction this week against you.
That's okay. That's why we pick them, and the guys got to go out there and play. We pick, but they got to go out there and play.
That's right. I am in similar vein to you, Steve. We're unfortunately in agreement here. I just think I watched what Washington did to Maryland in that fourth quarter, where they had nothing going for 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden they're scoring on every drive. They're stopping Maryland on every defensive drive. And I worry that Rutgers, even if they start off well, like they have the last few weeks, they're not going to be able to build a big enough lead that their defense can sustain for 60 minutes against that offense. Like all the guys you mentioned, Eric, like for sure they have an elite wide receiver. They have a really good quarterback who's mobile, which we've seen give Rutgers issues early on in the season. So I think it's a good spot for Rutgers as far as being a bye week. As Eric said, Greg's been great off of bye weeks when he's been at Rutgers. But between the travel, between the revenge factor, I think Washington is dying to beat Rutgers after feeling like they had a game stolen from them here last year. I think, with a year's hindsight, we can agree Washington probably should have won that game. Rutgers kind of won behind the magic of the blackout. I don't see Rutgers being able to come back home with a win. So I think it's close. I'll go Washington 31, Rutgers 27.
So cover though. You got to cover. All right, we got 3 different picks. This is
good.
This
is where I'm throwing in that wild card. Where I told you I'm picking Rutgers. I'm money lining them, but I need the turnover. I need that special defensive turnover, and I need it to. I would love it in the first half, obviously, but I need that third or fourth quarter when we've seen the Scarlet Knights have come out, slow in the second half. I need that third quarter turnover that changes this entire game, or in the fourth quarter too, when they can get the ball back to the offense. So that's what I'm going with.
All right, so before we let you go, we're going to have fun second finish that bottle of bourbon and then sing the Rutgers fight song. How's that sound? Good way to wrap it up? Let's do it.
I'll finish this bottle and this book, which I read one time. I read this book you wrote, Eric, on an entire flight, cross country. I think I was going to LA. I read the whole book and the whole flight because it was so great. I'll read it again. Awesome. I'll drink the whole bottle, and we'll make it I don't know if I'll make it to Seattle, but we'll have a fun week this week with all the whiskey.
No, I appreciate it. I'm excited to see how the rest of the Scarlet Knight, obviously fan base takes into, diving into the Rutgers bottle, especially. It tastes great. Where we've been having such a good time with it. And I really believe that in my mind, every liquor store, every bar, every restaurant in the state should have a bottle of that because it's the state university and it goes bigger and beyond than just the game of football or athletics. This is a Rutgers University collaboration together, and I hope to see a bottle in all of our alumni hands.
There you go. All right, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. The big man, Eric LeGrand.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant.